There are certain moments in combat sports that just feel different. A fighter gets into a rhythm, everything slows down, and for a few minutes, they look completely untouchable. This is In the Clinch, a series where we go back and break down some of the greatest performances, moments, and fights in UFC and boxing history. Going into Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo Alvarez, I think a lot of people were wondering if this was finally going to be the fight where Floyd got exposed. Canelo was young, undefeated, strong, and already becoming one of the biggest stars in boxing. He was only 23 years old, while Floyd was 36. Canelo had the size, the power, and the youth advantage, and there were plenty of people who thought this could finally be the guy who gave Floyd a real problem. And honestly, I can understand why people thought that. Canelo wasn't some random young prospect getting a shot at Floyd. He was already a world champion and had been building a reputation as one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. He was bigger than Floyd, he could punch, and at that point people were already talking about him as the future of boxing. So this fight felt like a passing of the torch type of moment. You had the old king against the young guy who was trying to take his spot. But if you've watched Floyd's career, you know that there was one huge problem with that idea. Floyd was still Floyd. And once the fight started, that became pretty obvious. Floyd wasn't trying to stand in front of Canelo and prove that he was stronger than him. He wasn't trying to trade with him. He wasn't trying to knock him out. He was doing what he had always done better than almost anybody else, controlling the fight. Canelo would try to close the distance, and Floyd would already be moving. Canelo would throw, Floyd would slip or block it, and then he'd come right back with something clean. It was almost like Canelo was constantly a step behind him. And this is one of those fights where I think you really have to pay attention to the little things. If you just watch it casually, you might think Floyd is just running around the ring and avoiding punches. But when you actually watch what he's doing, it's way more impressive than that. He's controlling the distance. He's making Canelo reach. He's changing the range just enough to make Canelo uncomfortable. He's giving Canelo openings that aren't really there and then punishing him when Canelo tries to take them. That's what Floyd was so good at. He could make you think you were about to land something and then suddenly you're hitting air. And Canelo was having a hard time figuring that out. You could see Canelo trying to cut off the ring and get Floyd against the ropes, but Floyd wasn't just running away from him, he was moving with a purpose. He knew where he wanted to be, and he knew where Canelo wanted him to be. That's the part of Floyd's game that I think gets underrated, because people focus so much on the flashy stuff, the shoulder roll, the pull counter, the defense, but his understanding of distance and timing was ridiculous. Canelo had the physical advantages, but Floyd had the experience to know exactly how to take those advantages away. And that's what makes this fight so interesting when you look at Canelo's career today. We're talking about the Canelo Alvarez that eventually became a 4-division world champion, unified multiple divisions, and became one of the biggest names in boxing. But this wasn't that version of Canelo yet. He was still 23, he was still learning, and across from him was a guy who had spent decades figuring out how to make world-class fighters look ordinary. Floyd knew exactly what kind of fight he wanted. Canelo wanted to get close enough to use his power. Floyd wanted to make sure he never got comfortable enough to do that. And whenever Canelo did manage to land something, Floyd never really looked bothered. That's another thing that stood out to me. There wasn't really a moment where Floyd looked like he was panicking or thinking, I need to change everything. He just kept doing what he was doing. And eventually, you could see the frustration starting to build. Canelo was trying to figure out how to get Floyd to stand still long enough to actually hurt him, but Floyd wasn't giving him that opportunity. Every time Canelo thought he had him, Floyd would move, turn him, counter him, or simply make him miss. And then, Floyd started doing what Floyd does. He started having fun. You'd see the little shoulder rolls, the pull counters, the moments where he'd stand right in front of Canelo and make him miss. At times, it almost looked like Floyd was telling him, you're going to have to do better than that. And that's where I think the whole Mayweather versus Canelo matchup becomes so interesting. On paper, Canelo had everything you would want if you were trying to beat an older Floyd Mayweather. But boxing isn't fought on paper. Canelo's power didn't matter as much when he couldn't consistently land clean. His size didn't matter as much when Floyd controlled the distance. His youth didn't matter as much when Floyd was making him think about every single punch he threw. And by the time the fight was over, it was pretty clear that Floyd had solved the puzzle.
Sometimes the best fighter isn't the guy who's throwing the hardest punches or moving the fastest. Sometimes it's the guy who understands the fight better than the person standing across from him. And Floyd understood this fight perfectly. Canelo was supposed to be the young lion coming for the old champion. A lot of people thought this could be the night where Floyd finally met someone who was too big, too young, and too strong for him. Instead, Floyd turned the whole thing into a boxing lesson. He didn't need to knock Canelo out. He didn't need to dominate every second. He just needed to make Canelo fight his fight. And that's exactly what he did.
This is In the Clinch.